Yeah, no, I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. Big time. Just lock that down immediately. Hecarim dropping because nobody likes fighting Hecarim right now. He is just a monster made out of machines. Um, So this game should be full of fire, ice, and lightning. I'm really excited to see what goes on here. You know, Google sitting there. They had that big advantage early in the game that they ended up like slowly and surely just losing out from underneath. You know that they've got something in their back pocket right now. They're not going out without a fight. Qualcomm, on the other hand, really had to rally there, and afterwards definitely did like a jumping high five freeze frame moment, which was what took us so long to get back up and running. Freeze frames, just too many resources. And so now we're going to have to see how these two titans in here in our quarterfinals are going to battle out game two.
Yeah, and Google actually switches up their ban just a little bit, throwing in a Leona ban, so didn't like that action. They actually had some pretty good ults. And maybe the pressure bot lane was difficult to deal with, and they didn't want to actually have to deal with that this time around. But I feel like, again, the criticism that was kind of with their team comp last time is they had a lot of champions that had to snowball, and then they had to keep the snowball. They dropped the snowball, it melted, and then they ended up in a lot of trouble last time. Qualcomm.
And every time you drop a snowball, Nunu cries.
It's true. And it freezes, and then you make more snowballs out of his tears.
And
stab your enemies in the heart.
Stabbing enemies at heart. The Leona ban actually a really good one in my mind because that does upset the and grabbing MF, and it looks like Google is going to be like, hey, we heard you like AoE comps. How would you like some AoE on your AoE sauce? I expect to see an Anivia coming out here. This is about to get into an incredibly brutal game. People are mad. People are playing AoE comps starting now. I'm seeing that Ezreal come out, going to be a little safe, being able to stay away from Nunu's bandages of love. And now it'll be interesting to see what else they pick up here.
Yeah, as far as as tournaments go and leagues go, HGL the Amumu factor has a pretty high win percentage, at least in HGL games. Just off the what I've got to cast. Usually the teams the Amumu are extremely successful. I think there's the only game where he didn't have a good time. I think he got extremely counter jungled. I think it was maybe an Amazon game where the Amumu got counter jungled and was like level 3 while everybody else was level 6. One of those scenarios. But
I remember that game. I remember that game. That was brutal. That was rude. That was mean. That shouldn't have been done to anybody.
That was actually, when the player's crying more than you are as a Mumu, then you're in trouble. There's that Rise from Pwn's.
There's the Rise. Yeah. Immediate lock-in, too.
And I think Rise actually would have been good. He's a little bit better of something you can build around as a team comp, where Fizz is a little bit less. I mean, Fizz is never going to be super tanky. He's going to be elusive, but if you do actually are able to chain him, he is going to go down really, really quickly. Where Rise has that spell vamp, is going to be naturally a little bit tankier and able to slang out those spells. So should actually have a pretty good time here, unless we do see this Twisted Fate, which actually can put a lot of great pressure on him. We'll have to see how that gets played out, though. But Aurelia did sneak through since they did spend that Leona ban, and point blank, going to be rocking the Aurelia up in top lane. We'll see what Google has in their kit to actually go against her. If Shaper of Chaos can play a good Rumble, that would probably be a good pick to bring in here with this team comp they have here. Rumble, Misfortune, that Equalizer following up the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and a Zyra ult. I mean, please.
Yeah, no, this is, I told you, I called it off the first two. This is Operation do exactly what they did to us last game to them this game now. And so you see this AoE comp, quick switch to Riven. You see this AoE comp starting to build up really quick. And the last piece of the puzzle forming the awesome Rumble. Hey, it's like you knew exactly what was going to happen. It's your favorite champion coming out again.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense in the team comp they have here, and I think that it's going to be completely devastating, because just between those ults, I mean, not even Ryze doesn't even have to be involved, and that'll just easily just melt the team. So the fact that they'll also have Ryze, the tanky member, to put out consistent damage, possibly clean up in case anybody does survive through the onslaught that is going to come in here, should be pretty interesting. They do have some ways to kind of get in there between J4 and Riven, and using that intervention, and really, again, intervention in the last game, how was a really big component of how the team fights played out. It's going to be even more important here to possibly save some lives or provide the tools necessary for someone to dive into those lines and pick up kills on the key targets that they need to get to.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to see here now. The Gauntlet, on the other hand, a pretty standard comp. You're running versus an AoE blast attack. It's going to be a lot of who can stand on the floor candy the least. I got to say the helpful hand is going for Google this one. We're seeing game 3.
Yeah, I'd have to say it's a pretty strong chance because I think in laning the way it worked out last time, I mean, it was fairly even in all the lanes, but I think with these matchups should be pretty good. We'll see how good Shaper Chaos is against Riven. I think the switch to Riven was a lot better choice over Aurelia because Rumble can just bully Aurelia so hard in those early gauges where Riven can actually at least fight back, possibly go all in and fight this one out. So, again, that's going to be a really tentative lane where either of these champions, again, are huge snowball champions. If one of them actually does get a leg up and gets a kill on that lane, the lane you can just dot that one down, and whoever gets that first early advantage is going to own that lane. And it could be a big factor, especially if you take Point Blanket out of Qualcomm's lineup. I mean, he's a guy that they count on, so could be big.
Absolutely, and we saw how much they counted on him last game. He was the tide that turned that entire game around. The entire world revolved around his sweet little ducats. And now as we approach this, I'm looking at these team comps. I'm looking at these titans squaring off against each other. I see a lot of being able to kind of play and poke coming out of Qualcomm, being able to just single fire, burst down a single target really quick with your great front line up there and an intervention to back it up. But on the other side, I just see too many ways to deal with that. A Zyra rooting them to the ground, Mumu rooting them to the ground, Ryze rooting them to the ground, an endless amount of slows coming out of Rumble. They're gonna have to play a lot of not get hit by stuff.
Yeah, it's another one of those scenarios where you see the summoner spells for Qualcomm's bot lane lean towards aggressive when I think they probably need to be more defensive, and we should have seen a cleanse onto Ezreal because at this point, if he gets caught in any stun, like I mean, you have Arcane Shift, but if you miss that, if you get caught for any amount of time, you're pretty much a goner.
And the thing is, you have Arcane Shift once. They have how many ways to hold you? If at any point in time you get hit with a Zyra root, you better expect that an Amumu bandage is coming right over the top. There isn't going to be a second chance. There is not going to be your ability to, get away, walk it off, and shake it out. They're coming for you this game. They are mad. Google is mad. I'm pretty sure if you actually tried to search something on Google right now, your computer will actually catch on fire. They're that mad. They just released a new doodle, and it is Qualcomm on fire.
It's just their bodies. They're just bent in horrible, disfigured shapes from being burned alive. In the Google name. Huh.
Yep.
I'm gonna stay away from that then. I don't want to have to deal with that imagery.
I don't want to have to deal with that either. It's not. It's the most real thing ever. It's not even cartoons. That's realistic as hell. I'm disturbed. I have a lawsuit for Google. We're going class action.
And the other thing too is normally a Mumu, you don't have to be scared too early of his ganks. He's just trying to farm through his way through the jungle. But Ryze obviously one of those great facilitators with the Rune Prison. I mean, you better believe a Rune Prison to bandage toss is a really solid gank.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be held down for a long time. So mid lane's gonna have to be pretty careful, as I think that we actually might see some pressure on Kale in the early stages. I
gotta say, I'm happy this time that the helpful hand is coming down on the size of an Ionian champion. Going on. I'm expecting big things out of Rumble. So Shaper of Chaos. Let's see it.
Yeah, Shaper of Chaos, the captain for Google. So if he's able to pull his team through here, that'd be really good for them. But again, I expect Ponescones to actually do very well in that mid lane yet again. I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. He's been showing that he can win that lane, especially on a Ryze. The Ryze can be a huge factor for a team. It might be that missing link they kind of had from last time, just having a good tanky mage who can just put out that consistent damage. But now that they have this backed up AoE team, it's going to be scary. They have a lot of stuff they can start off with, so invading him is going to actually be pretty scary and interesting if they decide to go for that. They're actually pinging towards like they're heading for the red buff, but we see Google marching towards that top tri-brush, and Zyra's going to place a ward at their blue buff.
There's a lot of adorable going on right here. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I believe this is going to be, the pressure's not going to stop this game. This game is going to be chaos. This game is going to just be punch each other in the face until one of you falls down, and whoever blinks first, whoever decides that they don't want to play that game is going to come out behind.
But who's going to be the Shaper of the Chaos to help? Is it going to be Google or is it going to be Qualcomm?
You know what? You can't say Shaper of Chaos when there's a Shaper of Chaos. Because I've already told you Google's winning this game. I've called it. And here comes the cross invade.
Ships in
Trading
the
a red
night.
ribbon.
Ships in the night. It's my
They
favorite
moved
moment.
at the exact same time there.
Yeah.
I would like to know they crossed the river at the exact same moment.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Apparently, that ward from both teams on their opposite side, not going to spot this out, but both with the same idea. The idea being that you want to put a Mumu's jungle behind, and normally, what if you have a Mumu on your team, it's either Fort knock your blue buff or go in here for an invade, which is what they're going to do. No word's going to spot this out from either team. We'll see if they decide to loop back through to their own blue buff, or if they actually. It looks like both teams actually just going to take their opponent's buff. This is actually a pretty dangerous move, though, especially when you ward your own blue buff. In the back of your head, part of you has to be saying to yourself, now is this warded? Are we being seen out right here? They don't have anybody blue pilling back, so there is going to be some wasted time to lane. Looks like Rumble going to take bot lane. We're going to have a 2v1 top.
All right. Game on.
Oh, Riven. Oh, this could be a bad day for Riven. Oh, no, she's going to be okay.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That right there was a flash and some tears away from being really bad real quick. And Riven is not going to enjoy this lane at all.
Yeah, they do have J4 nearby with a
That was
up,
some
though.
bait. Trying to reach out and touch somebody.
Just barely misses, flies across their face. That's a scary moment, but Riven already pretty low in this lane, already chugging health potions. And we'll see if this mix-up actually catches Qualcomm off guard, if they're able to get a big advantage on this. Rumble, not necessarily the biggest fan of the 2v1 lane, but he can play that out.
He can play it out way better than Riven can. Riven is not in a position to really enjoy this game at all. You better just hope that they're foolish enough to push you under your turret and allow you to bunny hop farm there all day. Because there's plenty of reach out and touch you up there that you don't want to play with.
Yeah, we see basically Rumble's going to be living off the Electro Harpoon, at least for a while. And the great part, though, about Rumble is that once he does get those levels and he does come back in here, he will be able to just 1v2 them just straight up once he hits 5-6 especially.
Absolutely.
And we could see that quick turnaround when he does hit that stage. And I think it's very smart the way that's getting played out here right now by Google in the top lane is they're not saying, hey, we don't want to push us in and do the base race. They're basically just trying to zone out and deny point blank as much experience as possible, keeping up a giant wave. So by the time it does get there, it's going to be pretty hard for it to clear, and they're going to put a decent amount of damage on the turret when it does finally get there. But in the meantime, they're going to be able to keep those levels down from that solo lane and keep that advantage.
Down in bot, we see a very similar action. This is one of those games, we've seen this time and time again in AGL and even in our regular ESEA stuff, where you have this, and it really comes down to who can drop this turret first. And there's a Mumu coming in to help, trying to get this turret down as fast as possible.
Ooh, those vines missing. Could have been some good follow-up damage. But yeah, a Mumu, if you turn out, the thing about it is that he has blue buff. So if he just turns on tears, and you just push with Tantrum, I mean, you clear those waves so fast, and Ezreal Sona alone is never going to be able to stop this. Kale's actually rotate up here now as well. Gets the Sun on your turret. Ignite goes down. The flash out. The slow coming back down. Will they be able to pick him up? Rumble getting some pressure down in bot lane as well. But it looks like a Mumu going to be able to escape out of this, chugging those health potions, and they will be able to send him away. But, I mean, that's a lot of time the opponent's going to just basically get the free farm in this mid lane.
Absolutely, but that could have gone incredibly well for them. What ended up happening there was that last-minute exhaust off of Zyra. Forced to waste a flash here. Why is Kale still up here?
I don't quite know. This is a weird call, especially with J4 not really able to defend this at all. He's not really doing anything. He's just basically getting experience.
Yeah, because if he moves at all, he's going to get rune prisoned and dead.
Oh,
and I guess they just really wanted to put some pressure up top, but instead they're most likely going to lose a life. And now this entire affair has played really into the hands of Google.
Yeah, this has gotten really, really messy. Maybe they're just going to go for a straight up lane swap and throw.
I believe that's what they were. I believe that's what they were doing, but they did it in such a slow way that they are going to lose first blood to Ponescones in aggressive flash. Not the game they wanted to play right there, and that was definitely a worst case scenario for them. Was giving up that first blood in that lane swap, which isn't a lane swap.
Yeah, I mean. It was a big gamble on their part to be like, hey, we're gonna have to pull off a gank here, and it's gonna have to be successful. Otherwise, we're just gonna straight give up a huge advantage to Punskons in that mid lane. Not only was he able to, and he was still able to pick up a kill onto J4 as well, get a buff out of it. I mean, the pressure from Rise now, just going back and to be able to buy up that early tier, and a Ruby Crystal is just going to be, I think it's going to be too much for Kale, at least in this early stage, since she was gone for...
Yeah, no, Kale has been playing from behind both games, though. We have to understand that. So she has some of that wherewithal to kind of be able to be patient enough to hopefully make something out of that. Here comes a Mumu up top again. This is actually just a push for the turret. They're trying to put as much damage on this as possible. They're not playing it around. They're not making the same mistake a lot of people make in this kind of strat, which is taking too long to get this turret. They're calling their jungle in to do it, and so far there's been no response bottom in the same way. J4 has not been that kind of a presence that a Mumu has, and while a Mumu does like being in the jungle, farming it up and trying to get to those higher levels so he's more effective, trying to get that ult, this is how you play into this strategy. You throw him out of there, you force him onto the tower, you get this tower down as quick as possible, keeping Riven from being able to push down these waves as often as she would like, and you punish them. You punish them into your into what you want to do. You get it down, and then you're free to run your game. Down bottom, we have our little Shaper of Chaos doing his job. Not much of a mind. Last potion finally going down. He is at 17 CS to Riven's 20. Still doing fine. Still in that same game that Riven is in right now. In fact, I would say even ahead.
Yeah, the only problem, though, is that he is going to have to throw out his ult to clear out this wave here, but he wasn't actually healthy enough. I think we did see Bobo do a great job along there with Soda in that bot lane, able to stave him off and point blanket. Not like in that trade, finally getting caught out by some of that damage. Has been pretty good using the broken wings and the dash to get out of dodge, but finally does get caught there. We actually see Punskons come bottom now to actually fend off this bot lane while Mumu covers mid.
Yeah, and there we go. Jarvan finally showing up on top, and that's going to finally give Point Blanket the kill necessary to kind of warrant everything they've done up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually going to be pretty big for them now at this point, able to finally pick up a kill up there and relieve at least some of that pressure and be able to defend that. I mean, having J4 come up there was the correct call to defend it out either way, but the fact they're able to pick up a kill off it as well finally is just relieves a lot of pressure for Riven. She has that level advantage, and it's going to become harder for that dual lane to keep it pushing. We see Rumble just head top now. They've decided to give up the strat that they started with, not able to take down the turret quick enough.
But a great job. I mean, the futility is doing the same thing over and over and over again, even though it's not working. What they did right there, they were like, hey, we still have a great comp. Rise is still far enough ahead that he can go bottom right now and not really lose anything out. Still 20 CS ahead of Kale, who's been allowed to free farm for at least 3 minutes now. But still roaming around. She's going over here helping with red, which is nice. I mean, it's a polite thing to do. Definitely scared of Rise showing back up in a surprise kind of formation.
Yeah, actually a little bit of expedition into the enemy jungle to ward out that red buff. Since they did take it earlier, they will have information on that. Now we see him go in here trying to get a pick off on Mumu, but Mumu going to be able to get to safety just in time. And now we're going to see Rise take up over that mid lane. Has actually brought up the Catalyst after backing out of bot lane. So, I mean, he's a scary beast at this point. Has his bread and butter, has all the sustain he needs for the early stage, that tankiness. And
yeah,
it's only going to be, him getting more powerful from this point.
And now the fight starts up top with these two beast machines sitting there, level 7. Both of them way behind in CS. Well, I guess not way behind in CS. It's kind of a low CS game unless you're Rise or Ezreal. So, yeah.
Yeah, unless you're the ADs or the mid lane that have got to, or at least Rise in this case, that's got to farm up quite a bit. Everybody else been under a lot of duress and pressure.
So the gold differential, only 1K in the direction of that, pretty much what was that first blood.
Yeah, and just the Roots just barely missing in the bot lane. Kind of interesting dynamics now that we've seen the Sona, Ezreal kind of... There's no early pressure that could have been put on by any of these ADs, besides the ones they're putting in the their respective 2v1s, but now it's just very much a different game of... they have their level 6 ults, they're both pretty scary. If either of them combo, either of them could pick up a kill really quickly, but it looks like Google very clever, going to spot themselves out of Dragon. They have it covered with Pink Ward, and going to be able to pick that off, and J4 hops over the wall to find an empty Dragon Pit.
And it was just a moment too late. The reaction time a little bit slow off of Rise leaving mid lane, but then again, I wouldn't want to be that close to Rise either. if I saw him roaming somewhere. I would just warn my team and pray. That's the moment where you just really get to put the pressure onto your lane as hard as possible, because I don't really know how they're going to do in that fight.
Yeah, it's a tough scenario, and sometimes the better idea is just to back off and let them have it. Unless you're in a really good position, a lot of them are still over the wall. The only one that's gonna the only thing that possibly gonna happen in their favor, the way that Google set that up and the way Qualcomm was out of position, would have been to luckily get a smite steal at best, which J4 was even late to getting over the wall for. So nicely executed by Google, making a good early play that's going to start to give them a little bit of a gap here for their team globally. And you see Rise actually just clearing out here, has that all, is going to be able to keep trying to span this one out here. A little bit low on mana, but should be able to keep charging it up as soon as he gets into the shot of his blue buff. Should be good for him, but Amumu has just been eating those blue buffs, at least in the early stages, to one, get the mana and the sustain, but also to get up to that level 6. As you see, he's actually at level 7 now. Crescendo going to land. Quick flash out of the Cataclysm. Alt's going to be able to possibly cover, but J4 able to get through this, and True Shot Barrage going to pick up the kill onto CatScan.
And that was a really good play on all, getting that flash out of there really early with that, and then the True Shot Barrage raking the team right there. A great attempt to cover with your ult. Should maybe done it a little bit ahead of you. And now damage coming down onto MF. They could dive her right now and take it if they wanted. She's not making good choices and is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Bullet time, too far away from tower, not expecting the damage to come up overhead like that. And there was a good little support, taking turret shots for your boss.
Yeah, as you see, Rumble actually popping Equalizer there. 1 to get the pressure on, 2 to actually clear out the wave so they can push in. Should need only 1 more wave to take that top turret. Meanwhile,
no, this tower's down.
Bottom turret going to be in a lot of trouble. Rai shouldn't be able to defend this with the mana he has. Doesn't quite have enough mana to fend this one off, though. Throws in some mana to try to clear out this one, but again, yeah, misfortune that bot lane just kind of made the decision. She was going to try to clear the wave with her bullet time, but Ezreal just was already halfway past the turn and was like, okay, well, I'm just going to kill you because
if you're going to stand still for me, I'm going to use my amazing set of abilities. And there's that tower exchange, finally. That top tower dropping after it had all that pressure on it earlier in the game. And that the towers that were expected to fall fell at the same time, but not under the kind of situation that either team wanted.
Yeah, a much more standard, 12 some odd minutes into the game or 13 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Not the 4 minutes like they were trying to pressure for, at least it looked like in the early stages. Just rallying up here. I mean, I don't know what's quite going with KO, but she's still on boots and pots. Like,
KO loves her pots. We got to get over that. That's her bread and butter, is those pots. She had pots all the way through the last game. Gonna have pots all the way through this one.
Pots for life, apparently. Gets that blue buff, gonna have those cooldowns, but needs some items to back it up if she actually wants to trade or do anything to Rise, who's actually gone double Catalyst here, so we're probably gonna see double Rod of Ages or Rod of Ages Banshee's Veil build come out from him.
Probably. We're definitely going to see that. I'm just surprised that he went to double Catalyst first with the advantage that he has right now. But he has mana to have, and that is what has been stopping him, has been having mana.
Yeah, but now should have actually finally rotated over there. Got that blue buff, as we see Mumu donating, and Chaos very, very low is going to deke down to get away from that. Oh, the counter flash to get away from the Crescendo. Could have been trouble, but luckily going to be able to strut her way out of danger.
Yep, and they back off just in time for Amumu to come down there. Even though I'm pretty sure they could have turned on Amumu. Amumu came down late for the fight. His team had already backed off and was way too low to actually help. But here in the mid lane, we're actually going to see exactly why these two wanted to hang out. And Riven's going to regret the decisions that she has ever made to get involved with Rise. The entire 3 of them there at, half health now? And finally, Rumble making the rotation down. And bot lane coming up to join too. It looks like we're going to get our first team fight.
And this is not the look that Qualcomm wants, actually. I mean, they don't want to actually push into this kind of AoE team. And if anything, they want to keep the lane phases going so that, we don't see the mount up of this AoE comp like it is right now. And with all their ults up,
come on, what's the worst that could happen? I expect a flash ult here, right? Oh, Mumu, do not tease me like that. Do not. You had it.
Yeah, I mean, they're They're pretty much set up for Rumble waiting in the wings, but I mean his ult should be able to come in at the right moment. He should be able to play connect the dots with that Curse of the Sad Mummy. But Chaos now splitting bottom, going to actually take up that waves. It looks like both teams not actually going to engage here after the initial jockeying.
I guess everybody who just showed up wanted to flex, off their pecs, and then Rise is going to continue monitoring the fact that his lane is his. There are many like it, but this one is his.
Yeah, I mean he's beasting at this point. He actually has. We actually see Kale actually spent that 2K gold that she had finally built up here, but Rai actually still sitting on a little bit over a grand, almost 1,200 gold at this point.
Ooh, and there's that big group combo coming down bottom, and we're gonna see some kills as Zyra decides that she is done playing, and we see why team we're going to hold you still and shake you like a Egyptian nanny. No, English nanny shakes a child. There it is. And
Cataclysm doesn't have flash this time for its opponent, so it's going to fight this one out. A Mumu Bandit Shot's going to come in a little bit late. No damage really to follow that up with, so ult's kind of just burned right there.
Yeah.
Payoff.
Yeah. That was a thing that happened.
Just a little bit too late of a reaction. Need their AD to kind of come out of bot lane and start to team up with them. As you see, actually did pull ahead of Ezreal as far as CS goes and keeping in pace with that. But for the rest of it, now you don't have this ult to fight out this dragon that they're jockeying for. Although they're still scared of this, don't want to get caught by any of that CC. But still, a tough situation. Riven actually putting a lot of pressure on the top lane, just repeating her ability to go down to these golems and just farm those while she keeps up the pressure.
Ezreal's finally joined the fight. Now it would be a 4v3. And while Zyra and Amumu's ults are down, the other team is almost fresh. So any kind of serious grab or bullet time over there, gonna cost her life because she loves standing still.
Oh, there's your shot. Barrage is going to be able to clean that one up. We see Rise actually coming on the backside. Amumu coming in here with a flash actually helped get some damage onto Kayle. It's going to intervention to keep herself alive just long enough to waste some more time for the enemy team, possibly be the only casualty here. We see J4 running bottom. Will they be able to head him off? Rise actually is ahead of him, so his path out of here
is
going to be pretty interesting.
Where's he going to go? He's going to get held to the ground and shaken. Boom.
Rune Prison actually going to pick up that kill right there. Don't need any more damage. Just the instant pop from Rune Prison.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments is Rise when you can just insta-gib someone with that because they just poof and disappear.
I wish the Rune Prison hung out, though.
Yeah, like it's just like their dead body was just held in the prison.
And Amumu reaching out to touch somebody doesn't really have the damage to really play that game underneath the turret, especially with no mana. That was a bold move. I salute that. I like bold moves.
Yeah, we see... Yeah, just that Ponescone's dominance coming in here. Harpoon's actually being landed on a crazy boost. He's going to try to get out of this damage. Going to get melted a little bit on his way out. Another Rune Prison landed. That combo just keeps coming out here. Onto Point Blank. Needs one last hit. Make it rain. Trying to get that last bit of slow. We see Kayle actually rotate down here. Going to try to help out her team. Does have intervention, so they need to be careful. But way too deep is Ponescone's. And no ults back up. And then Zyra ult is going to be used to cover the retreat.
Yes. Bold moves.
They do almost have bullet time backup. They will have equalizer, and they will have Curse the Sad Mummy online. So they do actually have some good teamfight potential, possibly. But again, just overchased there by Ponescones.
I understand how upset he is. That last game, he did a lot of work and didn't get the reward for it. I understand that, but he's really got to just settle down and sink some putts. Like he needs to kind of just focus into his game here. He has the comp. He has the lead. And he needs to be okay with that. Right now they're going to definitely lose this turret, which is one hit away from gone. Ezreal could just dive and jump out, but he's a little afraid. I could see him being afraid. Zyra could hold you to the ground.
Yeah, last time he got caught, didn't work out too well for him. So he's just trying to play this one a little bit careful. If they just even at this stage of the game too, it's like even most of the ones, as long as he just stays careful, which is the smart move here. Eventually, he just needs a little bit backup from his team or wait for a right moment when he does see the enemy team back off, and he'll be able to go in there and poke that one out. Oh, almost gets grabbed there, and Pones goes now diving in. Was maybe thinking about getting off that Rune Prison and ending his life, but not going to be able to cut him off in time. Meanwhile, Riven pushing that top tower should be able to take it unless there's a really quick response, although actually just going to just deal with those waves, just farm it up. It looks like Point Blanket hasn't really been able to quite have the influence they want, and there's that mid turret going to fall here.
And, I mean, got to jump back onto the CS train here and look at what's going on. We have Riven with a commanding lead over Rumble, her now lane partner, finally, with that 1 kill and 30 CS up. On the other hand, you have Rise, who, as far as Kale's concerned, isn't even real. But you have a big fight coming down here as everybody's getting caught out. And you see the AoE starting to drop, and almost a true shot barrage, almost picking up Rise, leaving him with less than 100 health. Amumu, being the best possible friend to his team, runs away from him and lets him live. The biggest mistake you can make, and I've seen it so many times, is you get into that team fight where you're definitely going to lose, and you stick together so that you can all die.
And the pain train coming for top lane, and hopefully Shaper of Chaos realizes that he has to just get out of there at this point and not fight this one out, but it looks like it's going to be too late for him. He's already getting pushed back underneath his turret as the rest of Qualcomm closes in here. Riven coming in for the damage. Equalizer going to fall across Ezreal there, but just easily able to take that damage.
Did you watch? J4 didn't even hit him. Just walked in and shielded. It was just like, hey, turret, focus this one.
Pass it off.
That was just rude.
Yeah, this is kind of the problem that Google's running into now. They have a really superior teamfight comp. They weren't down in gold until that turret, that kill just came through. I mean, they were even actually ahead prior to this, but they just really haven't been in the right positions. They're not actually leveraging their comp, and it might be a situation similar to Qualcomm last game where they just need Qualcomm to be pushing into their base and set up and force them to get the teamfight they want. And Bones Codes in mid lane pushing tower is actually not going to get out of mid lane and start to blue back at the rest of the Qualcomm team.
Well, no, he'll make it. He'll make it. Riven's slow. Riven's the slowest character in the game. Riven is 7 Nautiluses.
Put on her stone boots. MF going to back out of bot lane. Has been pushing up that, and we should see them mount up here. But really, that's the secret sauce for Google is they just need to mount up and fight completely as a team. And if they can do that, then they win. If not, then if they keep running around and getting picked off and losing objectives like this, obviously, they're going to lose their ability to be able to just end it in one big AoE team fight. And if that happens, then they're not going to be able to win.
Yeah, if they can't get that damage laid down real quick, and we see the double Rod of Ages showing up onto our dear man Rise. So the timers have started clicking on those. Yeah. Rise is just such a monster. He's going to be so big in just a moment.
Yeah, it's going to be the interesting thing to watch in the aftermath is, is Rise Up just still throwing spells and just going to be able to clean up the entire thing? And we might see another Penta kill from Ponescounds.
That's absolutely possible. We will see here momentarily. Yeah, Rod of Ages. 2 of them? That's craziness.
Yeah, it's a scary build.
Yeah.
So much health, mana, and damage coming out. It's a really great item for him. Reminds me of the old days of Singed, where it's so efficient on him with his passive that you would just see people just go double Rod of Ages on Singed.
Double, why not triple? And here's a really good opportunity for that team fight. They just dropped the execute, so now Riven's out here and kind of alone, but they're spread out, kind of funny. There's the connect the dots. Point Blanket's having to get out of there, but Crazy Moose runs to the back. Big crescendo, life dropping everywhere. The bullet time's going to come across, do loads of damage, and that's going to be able to drop everybody else. Come on, do the 10 damage. We need focus.
They ran out of gas right there, and we see just barely alive, and Qualcomm able to come through this one. Pretty surprising, and I have to give a lot of that to the crescendo that came out the backside from Sona that disconnected the AoE, so it wasn't all able to come in at one time. They were able to get out a few of it individually. Didn't get too punished for it. The mummy ult that landed and the other AoE damage that did come in, and they come in on top barely. It was very close to going either way.
It was incredibly close. What I saw there was a little bit like towards that middle section, focus broke. After that crescendo, it never really locked back down. We had 4 members of the enemy team at 300 health. At any point in time, could have been picked up. But we're gonna have to see a little bit more focus to really lock in those kills for that fight. That's the fight they want to win. If they can't win fights like that, if they can't figure out the equation to win those fights, or if they fall far enough behind where that fight isn't for them, their team is broken, and there's nothing that they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, we have to buckle down now. Falling down 6K gold lead. that's kind of, when you hit that 6K, 7K gold lead, that's where you see teams really start to separate themselves from these AoE team comps, and it's just that they kind of get those enough tanky items in there. As you see, the Runic Bulwark already online here for Sona. That's going to give him a lot of magic resistance, going to be able to protect him from a lot of the damage that is coming in here from a Mumu, Rumble, Rise, those champions. So their team, and also with the Locket as well, able to eat into some of that AoE team damage if timed correctly. A lot of good magic resist items, a lot of good just defensive item choices coming in for Qualcomm, and if it's just enough to keep them alive like we saw last time, that's how you beat these AoE team comps, just kind of weather it out. And with the staggering AoE CC, the Sona ult, they kind of kept them back in that funnel. That funnel is a great place that they were able to suck Qualcomm in, but Google, it took them a long time to fight through that. They were able to take out Rise separately in those AoE team fights, and Google just has to be smart about their positioning and when they execute, and if they can layer it all at the same time and correctly, then they will win team fights still. But it's gonna be tougher as this game goes on.
It's not free, that's for sure. And there's another no ward in bush check with face situation that they might be able to capitalize on. Curse that money. They want Jarvan to pay for his mistakes. There's the floor candy laying down on the ground, but not going to be laying down enough damage as
chaos. That's not the way you want to go.
that your team, other direction. You have friends.
Yeah, Rise not a part of that as well. They throw down a lot of their AoE ults, but you see, Qualcomm just decides it's time to go in. Crescendo actually going to be underneath turret. Going to need to be careful here. Mummy going to fall as he tries to wait in here. J4 backing off out of this one, getting an intervention actually onto him, and Zyra going to barely live against this. Ignite has 120 health about. Postgun's trying to wait in, trying to get a kill. Might see him turn on to J4 and take that bait, but going to get a little bit of heal from Kale on the way out, and Ezreal trying to run him down, needs one last shot, flash out to protect himself, and Rumble backing off out of this one, has no team to back him up, and Qualcomm, again, weathered the AoE storm early because basically J4 was the only one that had to tank all that damage, and that's an easy fight for Qualcomm after that.
Yeah, no, that was brutal, and just that split around red, that pathing split around red right there, singling yourself out against your team has to have that damage. In an AoE comp, every single piece is absolutely essential, especially when you're running something like a Mumu that doesn't, at least at this point, have the deeps to really help your team out. Mumu and Zyra, they want to try, they want to do things, but they're not the powerhouses. You have to have your AD.
Yep, and we'll see Google kind of push back out, clear out their own jungle at this point, but Qualcomm in the driver's seat, going back, buying up now, and we should see them start to swing out and start to push some objectives here really, really aggressively as they have that confidence now. They should be tanky enough in the way these last few fights have going. That I have pretty good confidence in them and possibly being able to close out this game. But we'll see if Google can pull off that team fight they need, but they're running out of time. That clock is ticking to when they're going to run out of effectiveness here.
Yeah, and they're just, you can see the CS gap has been, that the Qualcomm did have the advantage on, is starting to close up. Riven's pulling even farther ahead of Rumble right now. You're seeing top tier or tier 3 items dropping all over Google, while on the other hand, Qualcomm is having tier 3 items, words, using them, languages. I got all excited expecting a fight to just turn around and happen all of a sudden. You see a wall of Qualcomm sitting in the jungle, and this could be really bad. Jarvan dropping into the back has already decided that he's going to lay it down for his team, absorb as much damage as possible.
A lot of defensive ults coming out here. Bullet time coming across the enemy team. Rumble trying to back his way out of this one, but you see Ponescones waiting in there, trying to get the damage, but the intervention says no. And now everybody on Qualcomm still up. Rumble not going to be able to escape out of this triple kill, and they need to be careful. Misfortune's the last hope. Doesn't have any way to clear this. They're probably going to lose an inhibitor off the back of this.
Ooh. And that right there was a great play by J4, using his ultimate to spread that team like that. I gotta say, I was impressed.
Yeah, all the AoE, the big AoE ults, the Curse of the Sad Mummy was actually used defensively there. Rumble's ult was actually used defensively as well to try to draw, to stop them from crossing it, although it came behind their team, so they didn't actually care about it. They were still able to pursue, and just really good execution from Qualcomm. And again, the strategy that kind of is just get rid of a lot of those AoE lockdown ults, separate them from the damage ults, and it's working out for them, and they're tanky enough, they're ahead enough.
And Qualcomm is patient, and I didn't see that a lot in the first game. I didn't see their patience, which would be a mistake on my part, because they have waited and executed in perfect succession, 3 fights right now, back to back, unanswered. They're now, what, 13 kills ahead, something in the neighborhood of 9K, 3 towers, 3 dragons. It's pretty emotional at this point.
Yeah, they've been executing very, very well, and again, patience is a skill in League of Legends. They've been shown it, and a lot of it too, I think, is confidence as well. Just they have confidence that they can pull off the late game team fights. We don't ever see them panic or try to force fights that they can't win. Everything that we've kind of been picking in this game has actually been really good situations for them for the most part. And unfortunately, Google just hasn't been able to assert their dominance and pull off the combo that they wanted to pull off.
No, but one Rod of Ages is completely built or completely stacked on top of Pwn Scones. The other one's just a few minutes away. We'll see if that extra health, now that he's over 3,000 health, we'll see how much damage he can absorb, and maybe that'll help his team out.
Yeah, we saw him actually survive through a lot of that damage, but then he's been, he still is not able to even pick up kills. He gets people low, and then Kale's ult just comes in at the last minute with a troll face to send him packing as he goes to the afterlife.
It is already back up, so they have to be ready for that.
Yeah, Baron buff, that would be the big mistake for Qualcomm at this point, is if they decide to pick a Baron. It's way too great of a setup for Google at this point to go in there and actually start to get some momentum and wipe you and pick up a Baron in response. That's not what you want.
Oh!
This is what you want.
And there's the big hop out of J4, and you're going to see a big wave of damage laid down, and 2 members have already fallen. Rise can do nothing but run as the other 2 start to drop. Rise is the only one up, and Inhibitor is sure to go down off of this. This is game. This is that moment where
you just can't execute the AoE comp anymore. You don't do
no,
enough
the
damage. And you can see it fly across the enemy team, and it doesn't do anything.
Nope, they have built up. They're too tanky. Just looking at the supports, having that runic bulwark on Sona makes her the best player on your team. Like, she is everybody's best friend against this AoE comp, and the rest of the tankiness is just locking that down. Here's a free Baron after the Inhibitor, and if they were feeling really cheeky, they might even be able to swing top and get another tower.
Yeah, expect it's either going to be they're going to queue up the push, or they might just go back, buy up for the coup de grace push, if you will. But at this stage, just great execution for Qualcomm all the way throughout this game, closing out. It looks like they're going to move on and move on to the finals.
Absolutely.
In their stages.
Yeah. Now I'm expecting at this point, now that we've said anything about it, for them to play with our emotions and just throw and have a game 3.
Hey, they got to respect the respect the helpful hand, man.
Yeah. No, the helpful hand gave it to him game 1. So I'm shooting 50% this series of 3. So far, the helpful hand is only good game 1. Game 2, I get all discombobulated. I'm
emotional, if you will.
Yeah.
Hey, if this was baseball, you'd be like the greatest baseball player of all time. 500's great.
Yeah. Laying it down.
Yeah. Lumber. All right, so we'll see. It looks like they're clearing out bottom lane, but we should just see them mount up and do the full push on. They've shown that they know how to execute it. They know just lead with the J4. Then send in the cleanup crew. Riven's actually been doing a great job getting the back lines. As soon as Miss Fortune starts her bullet time, she's already regretting it because she's basically a sitting duck there for Riven to come in, stun her, and just combo her face off.
That has been MF's big flaw all game, is that she loves bullet time a little bit too much. She wants to play with it, and every time she stops moving, she gets punished.
Yeah, normally, again, it's that situation with the AoE comp. Like, if you're engaging, that typically works, but when you're a lot of times J4 initiates and they have to use their ults defensively, people sneak through and they're able to get those backlines. That normal safe bullet time they're used to getting out is not safe, and getting punished for it. It looks like Equilibrium is going to come in here, and a really quick jump in by J4. A movement coming back on the backside, going to use Curse of the Sad Mummy, backed up by Zyra just to try to defend this off, but they really don't take any damage.
No,
J4 pretty much full. Like,
they're just not doing any damage right now. Like, the towers are doing more damage than the team is, and there's 5 of them there.
Yeah, Runic Bulwark combined with his defensive aura and all the Hex Drinkers they're trying to build up here and stuff. Just too much already key ults pop for them. They should be able to poke on this turret pretty easily and start to whittle this down at this stage.
Anybody foolish enough to say Hansel's going to be the first one to drop? Riven's already on the back of Rise and flashes over to punish MF for standing still once again.
Yeah, opponent's goes up, but he's not tanky enough, not able to sit there and deal enough damage. Or deal enough damage.
Yeah. Tanky enough to survive the onslaught. He is the tankiest one on their team, but he can't put out the damage necessary to deal with this team now. It's gotten too out of control. Did get the kill on J4, but at what cost?
It looks like it's going to be the cost of his Nexus at this point. Just trying to run back and forth, throw out damage, be annoying as best as he can, but he's just running out of steam here. He's going to have to watch it fall, and it looks like Qualcomm going to be able to take this series and move on in these semifinals. So congrats to them. Was a pleasure to watch Google play this season in the AHGL. They actually had a pretty good run for their team. Their A-League team will be playing in the finals in the coming weeks here. Going down to the Red Bull land, the Red Bull Studios in LA. So they will be playing there versus Amazon. So they at least have some hope for their company. Google has some hope to win some money for charity and good causes, because that's what these teams get. If they do win the finals, they actually get a big chunk of change for a charity of their choice.
Charity!